Hello, everybody. Welcome to the table. Today we have another new CRKT for 2022. This is the Mah-Hawk, a design from Liong Mah, and this is one of the designs that really intrigued me from the CRKT 2022 collection. So this knife right here, it is a medium-size EDC knife with a weight of 3.37 ounces. We have a blade length of 3.19 inches. And the overall length of this knife is 7.38 inches. So it's a good size knife, and let's take a closer look and see what they packed into the Mah-Hawk, given that it retails for around the $57 price point. I think we're going to start here by looking at the blade. So rather than being the somewhat standard 8CR13 MOV, we are getting a blade with D2 steel on the Mah-Hawk. It's a nice upgrade, and it makes it stand a bit above some of its other CRKT peers this year. You know, the blade shape, I think, is super attractive, super utilitarian, and it really has this well-done satin finish. You know, CRKT in their marketing, they call it a drop point, but to me, honestly, it looks kind of sheep's footy, kind of Warncliffy. So I don't know, I would call it, a modified sheep's foot. But either way, this blade is upswept. It looks like it's built for work. The show side of the blade here, it has this very small CRKT logo on it. And again, the beautiful grinds. And when we take a look at the reverse side here of the blade, we have the model number and the Liong Mah design mark on it. So it's a very clean blade to look at. The spine of the blade as well has a good amount of jimping, very usable, and the flipper tab with its jimping really does well as a guard for your hand when you're gripping the handle. Very, very nice. As you may have noticed, this knife is an assisted opener. So still, it is very smooth. It's very slick to open. CRKT's recent assisted knives have all been really pretty good. So there's no grindiness. It's just a nice and smooth action, since it also uses the IKBS bearings in the pivot as well. So we have the bearings plus the assist. And as I expect for a new knife, there's no play, no wiggle at all. Everything here feels very solid. And this knife is a liner lock, and so we can take a look at the lockup. And lockup is early, but the lock bar here still fully rests on the blade, so that's a win-win here. There are no issues with accessing the liner lock to close the knife, so all is well so far. And as I would expect for an IKBS knife, a bearing knife, the centering on the Mah-Hawk is perfect, so no problem there either. So we'll also have to take a look at the handle here. So when we take a close look at this handle, it looks very interesting, but this is a glass reinforced nylon handle. So I know that is a fancy name for plastic, but I really appreciate what CRKT is doing here, because their GRN handles recently on some of their other knives, they have this really interesting pattern and texture. And to me, I feel like it somewhat emulates like a carbon fiber-like pattern. And it's really not just for the looks either, because when you look really close, there's like a micro texturing on this. And it does add some significant grip to a plastic handle. So you can see a very similar look on the Mah-Hawk here to last year's CRKT Kith. And I'm thinking if a company is going to go and use GRN handles, they might as well use these nice patterning on it to make the most of that GRN material. The actual shape of the handle, though, with the groove in the middle here, is reminiscent of some of Liong Mah's custom and higher-end knives. They all share that same design language. We can even see the pivot on both sides of the knife here. It has a very decorative look. And both of these pivots are using a T8 Torx bit. So that's on both sides. The knife has a deep carry pocket clip, and the pocket clip also has a pretty unique look. It looks like there is a captured ball here at the end of the clip. And you might think it would make the knife, really easy to deploy because it's so smooth, but the tension on the clip actually makes it a very tight fit in your pocket. So luckily, though, the clip is reversible for left or right-hand side, tip up carry. There's a single T6 screw on the top of the handle here, and that allows you to flip the orientation of the clip. So lefties and righties are both accommodated on this design. So that's really nice. And right next to this single clip screw up at the top of the handle, there's actually a channel here in the back spacer, and you could use this to attach a lanyard to the knife. So it's almost a hidden function that was maybe unnecessary, but it's nice that it was included. So they didn't overlook that. And taking one last look inside the frame of the knife here, we can see that there was no skeletonization done to the steel liners to save on weight. So many Chinese budget brands even do skeletonizing now, and it's nice that they make that extra effort. So it would be nice to see CRKT do the same. Still, though, the knife isn't overly heavy, so I'm not sure if it was really a cost savings thing or whatever reason they decided not to make that extra step. But along with my first impressions of the Mah-Hawk here, there are some negatives to the knife. It's not all positive, and nothing really major, but I think I need to mention them. So first off, there is kind of a crazy hot spot on the knife I have just noticed from the small amount of handling I've had with it. So let me explain. So this is a spring-assisted knife, and every time you open it, there's going to be a small amount of, bucking the knife does in your hand because of the spring action. Nothing major on its own, but right where the handle here impacts the bottom of your hand, you can feel some sharp edges right here on the butt of the handle. So every edge on this knife is rounded off, except these two spots right here near the lanyard hole. So as you manipulate the knife, these hot spots irritate just enough that it's noticeable. So that's something I thought I had to mention. This one corner right here, it's almost like an afterthought. My second complaint with the knife is going to be, again, fairly cosmetic and may not even be obvious to everyone who buys one. Again, this is an assisted opener knife, and that means that there is a spring in this handle. So if the spring is not set into place with some sort of grease or some way to hold it down, it's going to rattle as you use the knife and move it around. So now the CRKT curfew, which also just came out, is also assisted, but on the curfew, they clearly put grease on the spring to keep it from moving. So if you look in the handle here, you can see the excess grease, and not surprisingly, there is no rattle when it comes to the curfew. And this is also sometimes an issue in older Kershaw speed safe knives that have been, well used and, used and carried a lot over the years. Sometimes that grease will dry out, it'll get washed out, and there's a rattling in the handle. So this isn't a safety issue and maybe not even an important issue for most, but still worth mentioning in my opinion that right out of the box, the Mah-Hawk here does have some rattling from that spring in the handle. Maybe it'll annoy you, maybe not. But let's make a few size comparisons with the Mah-Hawk. First, we have a few of the CRKTs I already have on the table, so we can see it side by side with the Kith from last year, along with this year's curfew. And it is virtually identical in size to the curfew, which is kind of interesting to hold them side by side. You can see a lot of similarities there. And since I went ahead and I mentioned Kershaw's speed safe knives, let me bring out a Kershaw for size comparison's sake. So here is a constant favorite. This is the Kershaw Blur. And so to summarize, as we're manipulating knives on the table, let's go over some of the pros and cons of the Liong Mah Mah-Hawk. So the pros, this knife is lightweight for its size. That's a good thing. The blade is D2 steel, and so for the price, that's also a very positive thing as well. The action on the Mah-Hawk is smooth and snappy. The CRKT Assist is a good mechanism if you're a fan of assisted openers. And we do have a reversible deep carry pocket clip on this knife, so that is definitely a pro. Some of the cons, however, so let's talk about some of the downsides. We do have glass reinforced nylon handles. They're dressed up and they look nice, but in the end, it is a plastic handle knife. So what I'm thinking here is they took the cost savings from the plastic handles and upgraded the steel to D2, so we're not getting 8CR, we're not getting any other cheaper steel. The handle here, we have the hot spots like I mentioned. Those sharp edges could have been avoided in the design stage of the knife because the rest of the knife is so well rounded, it just seems like it doesn't belong. And of course, the rattling in the handle with the spring/torsion bar. You could easily add grease to fix this issue in the future. They should do that in the factory. And maybe mine's a one-off and they did it for every other knife, in the production line. But those are going to be the cons of this knife. All in all, though, I appreciate a good design. And Liong Mah has brought some great designs to the production floor with CRKT in the past. Indeed, this design has the right look. It has the right shape of a Liong Mah custom or mid-tech, but at a CRKT price, which may appeal to many out there. And this blade shape, it looks like a winner. So let me know what you think of the Mah-Hawk. I'm really glad to share this design with everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So thank you all for watching, and have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.